Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Manimala Rao. Most of you may be knowing I have worked in the critical care. So critical care ABG is a must every day in and out. So before we go to ABG, it is always everybody thinks it's a very difficult topic. But if you understand in a systematic way and understand who paved the way for the ABG, the CO2, the PO2 and the pH. These are the three main things in an ABG, and the rest are all calculated. So hydrogen first was Cavendish, oxygen Joseph Priestley, and Lavoisier is the father of modern chemistry. So the CO2 is by Joseph Black. So these are all the people around 1700, 1800 that they have identified. Next slide. Next slide. The oxygen is a bivalent, so it has got two molecules, O2, that is why it is called, and it is, it's got paramagnetic. That's why we measure oxygen with paramagnetic, and the concentration can be measured by the paramagnetic methodology. Next slide. So you all know that respiration for inspiration, the oxygen and the air, they come from outside. You keep on going off for the next, some slides, because till I get the last one. Yeah, next. Okay. So now in the inspired air, you only got, oh, no, go back to the slide. Hello. Can you go back to the last slide? Yeah. So in the inspired air, oxygen is only around 158, 159 millimeters of mercury, and we are having 760 millimeters at the sea level. So oxygen, carbon dioxide is very less, and there is water vapor, which exerts a pressure of about 47 or something like that. And in the alveolar, when it comes down to 100. And in the arterial blood, it is 95. And naturally, the carbon dioxide will be going up there, and oxygen will be coming out down. At the capillary level, oxygen is about 40 millimeters. And then when it comes to venous blood, is also almost same. So when you got 40 millimeters, the saturation is 75, right? And when it is about 96, 97 millimeters, the saturation is 97. So that is how you sort of measure. But you in the expired air, oxygen is a little higher. That is why we do the expired air resuscitation. If you don't have anything and you want to save a patient, that's what you do. Next slide. So this is just to remember your oxygen cascade, which is coming from the air, dry air, from 21% and 160 millimeters down into the, by humidification of the nose, then the expired air, then the what is there in the alveolar air, and then finally into the capillaries and into the cytoplasm, and finally into the mitochondria, where it is only 1 to 2 millimeters. So that much of millimeters of oxygen is essential for the energy buildup. That is the oxygen from the air and the food or the glucose from the food will combine at the mitochondrial level with the, when the oxygen is there, it is the oxygen makes them into carbon dioxide, water, and there will be 32 bonds of ATP. So this is what is the real life concern with that. So if you are not having, if there is hypoxia, there are only 2 bonds of ATP. That is the reason whenever patient is not able to breathe well, they become very listless and they cannot move very well, and they feel a little bit drowsy. And finally, if it is not given in time, they pass off within one minute. You can have a cardiac arrest. Okay. So this is the reason we have to be very, very sure about how the oxygen is going at the level. When oxygen is there, you get a lot of 32 bonds of ATP. Next slide. So this is oxygen dissociation curve. Many times I ask this question: at what time do you call for help when there is saturation is falling? Everybody tells me that it is at 90. At 90, look at 90. when there is 90, the saturation is falling very suddenly at 60. The moment there is a S-shaped curve and the curve immediately comes down at 60. So that is not really the correct answer. You should start worrying when it is 94. I mean, I'm saying that it should be in a younger person. If it is a little older person, 94 up to 90 is fine. But 90, waiting till 90 is not a good thing to do. So at 94, at least you should try and give oxygen, or whether they require, I mean, different things like COPD, we don't give immediately, but definitely in all the rest of the things, we do give oxygen because we don't want them to have any hypoxia. Next. Next slide. So how do we measure this? These are all electrodes which have got a a cathode and an anode, and they have a negative positive electrodes, and oxygen and the hydrogen. I mean, for the pH, the hydrogen electrolyte, the carbon dioxide electrolyte, they're called different names. pH is called Sebringas, and the oxygen is called Clark's electrode. So these are all the electrodes which will, when the oxygen, dissolved oxygen will enter through this membrane, and that is measured in the electrode. Like how we get, the dissolved oxygen is one, and the oxygen which is carried by the hemoglobin. So even if you give 100%, you cannot increase the saturation more than 100. Or even if you give 100 to 100%, the amount of oxygen which is saturated with the hemoglobin. It cannot carry. So every gram will carry about 1.34 ml. It cannot carry more than that. But what you can improve is what is dissolved in the plasma. When you are breathing air, about 0.3 ml is dissolved in about 100 ml. So usually you can increase that to giving 100%, you can increase it to almost 2 ml in a 100 ml. So that is what we increase when we give oxygen. Next. So why do we really want to do the blood gas analysis? Let us come to this one.